Everything you know about King Arthur might be a translation error, not a legend, not a myth, a mistake, repeated for 800 years, until the lie became history itself. The sword and the stone, the round table, the knights in shining armor. We picture all of it as English: green fields, stone castles, a king crowned by destiny. But scratch away that paint, and underneath, there's something else entirely. Something that never belonged to England at all. Something that rode in from the east, on horseback, beneath a dragon banner. And by the end of this story, you'll decide for yourself, because I won't tell you what to believe. We'll simply follow the real historians, the real documents, and the connections most people don't dare to make. Welcome to Vanished Truths. Let's start here. For someone so famous, there's almost no solid proof Arthur ever existed. The earliest sources that mention him were written centuries after he supposedly died. The glorious Arthur we know, Excalibur, Lancelot, the Holy Grail, mostly came from the imagination of a 12th century writer named Geoffrey of Monmouth. So much of what we know is fiction. But pay attention, not all of it, because there are two documents far older than Geoffrey, and they speak of a very different Arthur. The first is a war poem called Wygododin, around 600 AD. Praising a brave warrior, it says he fed black ravens on the wall, though he was no Arthur. Stop and think about that. In the year 600, the highest way to praise a warrior was to compare him to Arthur. So Arthur was already a benchmark, not a legend yet, a standard. The second is the Annales Cambriae, the Welsh Annals, and this document records Arthur's death at a specific date, 537 AD, the Battle of Camlan. It isn't telling a fairy tale, it's keeping a record. So who was this real Arthur? Almost certainly not a king. The early sources call him Dux Bellorum, war leader. In the chaos of post-Roman Britain, a commander leading cavalry against the Saxon invaders. No crown, no Camelot. Just a commander, a horse, and a sword. This is where the truth begins, and it leads somewhere far stranger. To understand the real story, we have to go back to the year 175 AD, and thousands of kilometers from England. The Roman Empire had fought a brutal war against a people on its eastern frontier, the Sarmatians, fierce, nomadic horsemen from the steppes of Central Asia. When Rome defeated them, it did something strange. It didn't destroy them, it deported them. Rome took 5,500 Sarmatian cavalrymen and shipped them to the far end of the world. To Britain. Imagine it. 5,500 steppe warriors, torn from the grasslands of Asia, assigned to guard a cold, rainy island at the very edge of the Roman map. They settled in northern Britain. They lived there for generations, and they brought their culture with them. And here's where the hair on your neck stands up. Because the culture of these horsemen is full of things we think are uniquely Arthurian. The Sarmatians worshipped a god of war, but not a statue, a sword, driven upright into the earth. They prayed to a sword standing in the ground. Sound familiar? The sword in the stone. Their battle standards were shaped like dragons, long, hollow, screaming in the wind as they charged. And what was the name of Arthur's father in the legend? Uther Pendragon. Pendragon, dragon head. But that's not the most shocking part. The descendants of these steppe peoples, still living in the Caucasus Mountains today, preserved an ancient cycle of legends passed down by mouth for thousands of years, the Nart sagas. And inside them is a scene impossibly close to Arthur, In one Nart story, the greatest hero is dying. He orders his companion to throw his magical sword into the sea. The companion hesitates. Twice he lies. Twice he hides the sword. Only on the third attempt does he throw it. And the moment the blade touches the water, a hand rises from beneath to catch it. If you know the Arthur legend, you just felt a chill, because that is exactly how Arthur dies. Excalibur, thrown into the lake, a hand rising from the water, the hesitating knight, the third throw. The same story, but this story was told on the Asian steppe, probably centuries before anyone in England had written a single word about Arthur. Now we reach the most fascinating layer. The sword in the stone. Everyone assumes it's magic. But what if it isn't magic at all? What if it's a memory? A memory of humanity's greatest technological revolution. Thousands of years ago, humanity lived in the Bronze Age. Then something changed and turned everything upside down. Iron. A warrior with an iron weapon could defeat one carrying bronze. Iron was power itself. And do you know where humanity's very first worked iron came from? Not from underground. From the sky. The first iron objects were made from meteorites that fell from the heavens. It's called meteoric iron. The oldest iron daggers found in the tombs of Egyptian pharaohs, made from iron that came from the sky. The ancients called this metal sacred, divine, because they believed the gods sent it down from above. Now think again. The sword pulled from the stone, an iron sword drawn from a meteorite, a piece of rock, a sacred metal that only the destined one could claim. Maybe this legend isn't a story about magic. Maybe it's a mythological memory of the sacred iron revolution that transformed humanity. The sword in the stone, the very power from the sky that ended the Bronze Age. There's one more strange thing. Arthur doesn't die. The legend says he was carried to a mysterious island called Avalon, the Isle of Apples. There he sleeps. And when his people need him most, he will return. Now pay attention, because this motif will feel familiar, because nearly every culture has the same story. In Germany, Emperor Barbarossa, sleeping inside a mountain, destined to return. In Portugal, King Sebastian, who will come back. And in beliefs all around the world, a savior figure who will arrive in the darkest hour to rescue his people. And then there's Merlin, the mysterious sage who gives knowledge to mankind, the figure who sees the future and passes down secrets. And again, he appears in every mythology. Prometheus, who brought fire to humanity. The knowledge givers, from culture to culture, always in the same role, as if humanity keeps telling the same few stories, over and over, under different names. Now comes the part most channels skip. We won't. Because I promised you at the start, we'd separate what's real from what's imagination. First, let's be honest. The Sarmatian connection is not made up. Two scholars, Scott Littleton and Linda Malcor, built the serious version of this theory. The cavalry transfer in 175 AD genuinely happened. The parallels with the Nart sagas are real, and they are striking. This is a respected, if debated, academic hypothesis. But now the hard truth. Most historians do not accept it as proven. The parallels could be coincidence. A hero throwing his sword into water is a common motif across many cultures. There's no definitive proof, only a strong possibility. And that famous claim, the Sarmatians were Turkic, so Arthur was Turkish. Here, even when it's less exciting, we have to be honest. The Sarmatians spoke an Iranian language, the same family as Persian, not Turkic. Linguists are nearly unanimous, so calling them Turkish reaches beyond where the evidence can go. It may feel powerful, but feeling powerful is not the same as being true, and some go even further, claiming Excalibur was a piece of technology from a lost advanced civilization. It's entertaining. But here, history ends and imagination begins. There's no evidence for it, and I won't present it to you as if there were. So where does that leave us? Somewhere far more interesting than a simple answer. The legend of Arthur is almost certainly not the invention of one nation, one place. It's a mosaic, Roman, Celtic, French, and very likely carrying real threads from the distant steppe. So the next time you picture King Arthur, the English king, the stone castle, the perfect knight, remember the other possibility. A horseman from the east, a sword worshipped in the dirt, a dragon screaming in the wind, sacred iron fallen from the sky, and a dying hero ordering his blade thrown into the water. Maybe we'll never know the truth for certain, but maybe that's the point. Maybe Arthur was never meant to belong to a single people. Maybe he's the way all of humanity tells the same story. The hero, the sword, the lost king, over and over again, belonging to every people the road ever touched. What do you think? Was the greatest English hero never really English at all? Tell me in the comments, and never stop chasing the truth. I'll see you in the next story.